There we go.
All right, thank you. So welcome to the first, I guess, Ambassador Committee meeting with NEAFCS. So I'm excited that you guys are here. I have just a few slides to kind of get us started, to get us kind of all on the same starting point for this committee, because it is a relatively new committee. So I had grand plans for this first activity. And, you know, technology is always great when it works. So what I want us to do is just introduce ourselves and our affiliate, and then why you decided to sign up for this committee. And my plan ultimately had been to annotate and put all of our marks on this map. I thought it would be kind of fun to see where we were. However, that is not working out for me today. I don't know if I can. Let's see if I can. Can I do this? Oh, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's not exactly what I had in mind, but hey, it's a dot. So anyway, so I'll get started and then I'll pass it off to Kate and we'll kind of go around our Brady Bunch squares. So I am Jessica Trussell. I'm the chair of this committee, and I am here because this committee formed out of a brainstorming session at winter board meeting when I was secretary, and it was just prior to Kate's term. And so I wanted to see it to fruition. It was something that we had developed at that point, and so I want to see it actually play out in person at an annual session. We'll talk a little bit more about what that is in just a minute. But Kate, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I am Kate Shoemaker from Ohio, and the heart of Amish country in Ohio. I am currently the secretary for NEAFCS and about 22 years in extension. We can go to Sarah next.
All right, I'm Sarah Sprouse. I am from Iowa, and I've been in extension for 5 years, and I am currently the Iowa affiliate president. And so that's kind of led me to become interested in the ambassador program. I've enjoyed being in this position and want to get to know people from other states, and I like to help.
Great. All right, Stacy.
All right, so Stacy put in the chat that she had to let her person in house. So she's with Penn State, Lancaster County. So again, Amish country. So that's kind of cool. She's currently secretary for Penn State FCS.
Okay, excellent. Well, we'll let her get her her individual in. We are like Central and Eastern heavy, but that's okay. Glad that you all decided to join us. This committee does fall, the Ambassador Committee does fall under the secretary. And so Kate is along for the ride with us for that. And then she will be stepping into the chair position next year. So excited about that as well. All right, so it kind of worked out on my map. So we can improvise here in extension. I laughed. I taught one day in the dark and my participants used cell phones to do their paperwork. And we're like, we can do all things in extension, right? We can figure this stuff out. All right, now the question is gonna be when I change my slide, if the circles stay on my screen. So we'll see what happens. Haha. Okay, so a little bit about the Ambassador Committee and what it is. Like I mentioned, this committee was started out of the winter board meeting in Gulf Shores in January of 2020. And we didn't know at that winter board retreat in January that the world was gonna like shut down in March. Was not something wasn't really even on our radar when we were meeting. And so it really changed. We had planned this kind of ambassador brainchild came about. We had planned to implement it in Salt Lake City. And of course, we had to stop and transition and move that to virtual. So it started kind of the concept was based on, I don't know how many of you remember the arrangements committee. I have been on for 13 years, and the arrangements committee was kind of where I first got on and introduced into NEAFCS and serving at annual session. And so it kind of started from that idea of a group of volunteers who work to really make sure that the annual session is the best that it can be. And when we, that committee, just because of the change in technology with like what Sign Up Genius does now, that's what the arrangements committee had done previously. So they worked to fill all the spots. They worked to do all of that. And technology kind of replaced that portion of the arrangements committee. But you all know that there are so many places where our volunteers can serve and can be very beneficial to annual session to help really make it that professional conference that we really want it to be. So part of the problem that we had with this previously is that we would send out these volunteer lists and people would sign up. And then we would have people not show to serve in their position. So we would have concurrent hosts without someone to, or we'd have concurrent session presenters without a host to introduce them. And so really what that led to was on the backside was us frantically searching for someone to fill those roles, someone to be with those special guests, someone to find that coverage. And so that's kind of where this grew out of. At that meeting, we were talking about how to just improve NEAFCS as a whole. And so this little brainchild came out of that. So when we think about the timeline, we really hope we're in person in Raleigh, and this committee is just blazing ahead and moving in 2020. And 2022, and I did look, and it is in September, if I have my dates correct. So our timeline is actually a little bit shorter because we are in November right now. So that is kind of a little bit about who we are and how this committee got started. And I don't presently have my chat up, but if something comes up, please just holler at me. There, I found it. Okay. So I sent, I don't know, you can nod, give me a thumbs up. Were you guys able to pull up the information that I sent through member clicks with the kind of the infographic and the plan of work from last year? I sent out an email on Friday. Trying to just get in your hands some more information. And so this is kind of cut and pasted from that. But just again, the purpose of the committee really was just to make sure that we had a professional and successful conference, that we had people who were willing to serve and to be trained to be an ambassador. And so the committee then is to develop that process. So the committee is to develop the training, to develop the selection criteria, to develop, the marketing information for that. So people who serve on the committee, the ambassador committee, won't necessarily be an ambassador. Not that they can't apply to be one, but it's not a guarantee that if you are on this committee, you are then a ambassador. So it's kind of two different parts there. So you can see some of the purposes of the committee, and then also, when we look at that, the next part, then it's the ambassador. And so that really is that brand representative. And so our idea is to have that individual who is going to be our concurrent session host, who may be a special guest host, who will be maybe someone who can not necessarily be a ticket taker, but maybe we can have a couple people who are assisting people, or as you're walking through the hallways, if you see, the ambassador sees someone who needs assistance, we are those people, right? So the ambassadors are those people who commit to volunteering, to commit to serving at that in-person annual session. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Is there anything you want to add to either the committee or the ambassador purpose?
No, not specifically to those two. Although I'm going to find it in my email and put it in the chat. Your comment back about how we used to send out the whole sign up thing for people to sign up to do things. There is currently one of those for this conference, and it's to sign up to volunteer to host the networking sessions. and it is almost empty. I looked at it last night. And I think part of it's because obviously it's virtual, so people are thinking, well, there's nothing that people need to host, but they are asking for people to be virtual hosts in the Zoom rooms for the networking sessions. And so I'm going to I'll find the link for that while we're talking and put that in chat. So if the four of us at least, and can spread it out to our respective colleagues, perhaps ask for people to see if they'd be willing to sign up to host those Zoom rooms. That would be great, because that starts tomorrow and they need a lot of hosts. And that's part of what we would be doing. We'd be looking for those kind of things.
Sounds great. Thank you for putting that link out there. If you can find that, we'll get that in the chat. And I had looked too about, the different topics. And do you know, Kate, if it is just someone to kind of facilitate discussion, just to, like, I know there's a childcare one. So is it just to kind of get the conversation started?
Let me look it up. It did say it would be pretty much like keeping the discussion going. If there get to be any lulls, or I will see. It says in the sign up genius like what the description is. So
okay. If you can find that, then I can also send it out to my state attendees as well. So we can do that right after the meeting. Okay. All right. So then I told you I had very, very few slides. So my questions I'm going to put out there for Sarah and Stacy. Do you guys have any questions? Because I know it's just a really brief overview of kind of what we're trying to do. So what questions do you have that we can answer?
Well, Jessica, I did find the email from you last week, but the links weren't active links. I mean, it said what you uploaded, but I couldn't click on anything to actually see it. I just saw the name of the document.
Okay. So you can't actually add an attachment to the member click system. And so what we have to do is go into your profile, to your committee list. Have you done that before and went to the committees, and then it shows all the files that are there?
I don't believe so.
Okay, let me see how well I can do this on the fly. All right. So if we go to I don't think you care about the daily deal. All right. So if we log in, let's see if I can do this the right way. If we go to our profile, and if there's a way to send attachments through the member clip system, I am just not. So if you go to my features, you can see your committees. And if you click on the ambassador committee, it will have all of the, when it loads, all of the messages that have been sent. So if you ever want to see a previous message, you can see that. And then the files for the committee. So that is how you can access those files. So that is how we can get there. And they are stored there like indefinitely. So this committee in 6 years, these files should still be there. So that is a way that you can access that information. And if there's a way to get them in the email, then I will double check with Will on that one.
And Jessica. So I did put into the chat the Sign Up Genius link and the description of what they're asking. The Zoom room breakouts for networking. They're based on the educational tracks. The volunteer, it says, will help facilitate conversation. Just says, be ready to chat with anyone who pops in or help move conversation along if needed. And so, right now there are times on, there's networking sessions Tuesday, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and then 12 to 1, and 1 to 2. So there's a lot of networking on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, it's 10 to 11. And then Thursday, 10 to 11, and 2:15. 3:15. So like right before, I think that might be before or during. That's before a session, I think. Yeah, and you have it pulled up there. So there's a lot of sessions that still need facilitators. And so,
oh yeah,
a lot.
11 to 12 for sure. And so with these, we would only facilitate in one room then, right?
Yep, you're just facilitator in one room, one topic area for 1 hour.
Try not to scroll so fast that y'all get dizzy.
So it's the same topics every hour, every session. It's just, you know, pick a time that you, and you figure that Tuesday, there's, you know, nothing happening other than pre-conferences until you get to the opening session. So that's good networking time.
Yeah, so a lot of opportunities. So thank you, Kate, for bringing that up. Okay, so back to the committee purposes. Any questions about what we are going about the committee, the plan? Let me get my.
Hey, I just wanted to say, hey, I'm just popping in, make sure everything's going okay. I see you're recording everything. That's great. Sounds like you're already doing an amazing ambassador job by explaining to folks who may be popping in unexpectedly what's going on. I've got a few more to pop in and out of today. I'll be here for a couple of minutes and then I'll be popping out. If you guys have any questions, let me know while I'm here. Otherwise, I'll put the email address that's being monitored by me and the executive director during the entire annual session. So please feel free, if anyone on this call has a question at any point, you can email us at the email address I'm going to put in the chat and we can give you a hand. I'm Will Ferguson. I'm with the staff for NEAFCS. So if you haven't heard of me before, you probably will, especially if you serve on this committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will. That's like what would it be, like a famous person's little drive-by spiel? It's like, I'm gonna stop in. Here's why I am. All right, so for Stacy and Sarah, any questions? You're like, nope, we're like ready to go. Okay, so the next thing that we need to accomplish and our goal for this meeting is to get our plan of work completed for this upcoming year. And I have kind of taken the liberty of, I took last year's plan and tweaked all the dates to fit the new session dates having to be in mid-September versus early November. Doesn't mean some of these things can't change, but I went ahead and did that just kind of as a starting point. And, you know, Will and Kate and I have seen this a number of times. And so for Stacy and Sarah, it's going to be new to you. So this is our new action plan format. I'll actually submit this online when we are completed with today's session, so we can be an A+ committee. So my question for the two of you, since we have two on today, are either of you interested in apprenticing for this committee? It can be one, it can be co. So I won't force something out of you right now unless you're like, yes, I'm really interested. I want to do that. We would love to have at least one person to be an apprentice after Kate to kind of learn how this goes. I'll hush for just a minute and see your thoughts.
Okay, so then we have to separate those out. Okay, so we have 38.
I would be interested if Stacy's not. I would do that. I just don't want to take anybody else who wants to do that. But.
Stacy, are you interested at all, or?
Sarah can take it. That's fine.
Be like 2 years and, learn we're all learning together here right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sarah, I will get your email in a bit. I can grab that off the member click. So the past year really, I guess, is me. So because we've been floating for a couple of years. So Will, I'm going to leave that one blank. When we have talked in the past, we have came up with at least 3 subcommittees that we will probably need for this group. And my assumption is that we will be able to send this recording out to the other members of the committee who couldn't make it, or we can direct them to it so that they can get this information as well. So if one of these areas really is like, oh, this is kind of my passion, we have marketing and recruitment. Then we have the ambassador training, which would be developing the training for the ambassadors about this is, this is the needs and the expectations. This is the commitment that you have whenever you sign up to be an ambassador. And then also the ambassador selection. With that, the caveat would be if you are interested in serving as an ambassador, we're going to ask you not to serve on the ambassador selection subcommittee. So just to keep those things fair. Any of those suit your fancy? Interested in those?
So I would be willing, because obviously there's not a lot of us here right now. I would be willing to take on the training committee.
I guess I would rather do the marketing and recruitment because I feel like I would want to apply for the ambassador selection at first because I feel like I need to do the job to understand how to be on the committee or how to be, better.
And I don't feel like I would have, especially this first year, I wouldn't have time to be an ambassador. So I certainly could. I could be on ambassador selection as a member, but not
the lead for that. And we can have more than one on here. And Stacey, do you have an area that you'd like to serve on one of these committees?
With ambassador selection, is it really just like reaching out to the affiliates and trying to recruit, or what were you thinking for that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So let me explain these a little bit more. So marketing and recruitment, that is going to be presenting presenting this to the membership and seeking those individuals to apply. So it's going to be coming up with working probably with Will for some infographics, and we've got one info sheet done, maybe tweaking that, but getting that and actually getting people to apply. So the training is then developing that training for the ambassadors. This is the who, the what, the where, how we're going to do that. And then the selection is looking at, we've talked about a number anywhere from 20 to 30 ambassadors that we would want per conference, depending on the size of the conference. So it would be actually looking at the criteria for an ambassador and then selecting those individuals to serve.
Okay, so kind of like reviewing the applications. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could probably head that, and then if Kate wants to be a member of the selection, that'd be good.
All right. And I will be with you on all of them. I will be assisting in those things. And I also, Stacy, I can help with the ambassador selections because like Kate, I will not be serving as an ambassador. Maybe in 2 years, I'll apply to be an ambassador when I'm off the roster. So, and then we will, and then Kate, we will put you on there as well.
Yeah, I do feel like Jessica, you and I will be pretty much on all these committees one way or the other, but officially I'm fine taking the lead on one of them.
Great. Okay, so I feel like our strategic, is this large enough? Do I need to blow it up or can you guys see it okay?
Okay.
I always worry. So, and I know just because I have 2 screens doesn't mean everyone else always does. So let me check the chat real quick. Oh, okay, got it. So I really think the strategic plan goal, committee goal and objectives are probably going to pretty much stay the same each year, especially because it's branding. And so maybe we will tweak this next year. But really our strategic plan goal is to offer that professional development opportunities to our members so that they can, have some more opportunities and gain that experience. So our goal is to provide organization structure and services that allow annual sessions to run smoothly and professionally. And then our objectives are to provide organization structure and services allowing annual sessions to run smoothly and professionally. So it's very similar, those objectives and those goals. We have, the more that the committee, the committee has been Kate, Will, and I, that at this point has really been what the committee has been because of the kind of pause from having the session being virtually, the needs of the ambassadors weren't, although clearly we need them for the signups that Kate put in the signups in this, but so we're still tweaking and this is our plan of work. And so it is a guide, but we may do things differently. So for instance, one of the things that we have talked about is having a recognizable symbol for an ambassador. So whether it be, I've teased Will just about having like a visor. We're really not going to have a visor that people are going to wear, but you should tell him that's what we decided on. He could just skip that part of this recording. But like a scarf, for example, or something, not necessarily like a vest, because a vest isn't necessarily maybe, I don't know. We've talked more about a scarf or something, and then the issue is whether or not they get to keep it or they return it or those sorts of things. We still need to work out some of those logistics. So we will, all of that will be done throughout the year. And if you see, like I said, I tweaked the dates, but if you see something, think, oh, that probably really needs to be earlier or later, please let me know. So for the reviewing the job description, do we have, my thought at this point, and Kate, you can help me with this, is do we want to just break these down into subcommittee responsibilities, or does that sound like the easiest? Or for those of you who have served on other committees, any thoughts on that?
So as far as breaking them down into subcommittees, beyond the 4 of us that are present, getting these to the rest of our committee members that are signed up, that's really our next step, is getting them to sign up for these subcommittee committees.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to get away from the sub in committees, but getting them to sign up for committees. And then kind of figuring out from there. I do feel like the idea of the job description needs to be consensus across everyone, so that we're all on the same page. And if that just starts with those who are present right now, and Because then everybody's working from the same description.
Okay.
Um,
And
that's me talking about.
yeah, so I think my understanding for today is just to get the plan of work done, and then we can start on that as a committee as a whole, like in December or January. Because for, you know, our responsibilities for today is to have a completed plan of work for our guidelines for the rest of the year. So I think, like, in, you know, putting down who is responsible for this, it's really going to be probably the chair of the committee for this first one, right? Because it's going to be consensus, but we can do that at the next meeting. And that's where I was trying to figure out, like, is there a committee that we like? So for the creating the ambassador application, to me, that's going to be the selection committee, because they're going to be the one who are like helping to select that. Am I thinking of it the right way? Because we've only had 3 people, so trying to figure out how to break it down a little bit more.
I would think the 2 and 3 would be the selection committee, that the application and agreement. And I think all of those need to also have probably the staff and the chair as part of that. I mean, you know, I'm thinking that you and the national office need to be part of that, as, you know, it all flows through those 2 places. You know, it's not committee exclusive.
Right. And I'm not for sure, because all of this has to be submitted on the online application, and I'm not for sure what that's going to look like for who I can actually put in there. So the letter of appointment for purposes of recognition with registration, recognition with administration. And so the thought behind this is a letter that we can give to, so say Sarah is an ambassador, it would be a letter that we could give that says, you know, this person is, you know, being recognized as an ambassador within the system, within NEAFCS.
I think that would also be the selection committee. And then obviously 5 is your marketing recruitment. And when it says marketing piece, I mean, realistically, you already have that one pager, but that's also, you know, working with Will on, you know, Facebook posts, and working with me on newsletter pieces, and what other times and places throughout the year can we promote this? How often does it need promoted? When does it need promoted? What's the timeline for promotion? Whatever that is. And then also 6, promoting the ambassador program. You've got past president, but that's also your marketing committee, because it's working with those people to know what they need to have to promote, so they have the right pieces.
I took out the word piece from marketing, because it's just the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a training committee. What do you guys think? Ambassador application representation, is that going to be marketing? Like Will and marketing?
That's recruitment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's your marketing recruitment, yeah. And that's the same. The next one, 9, is the same thing.
Direct email to membership regarding application, marketing, and Will.
I would think. And Sarah, if you're going to take on the marketing and recruitment, are you in agreement with these?
Yeah, I think they make sense.
Okay. So schedule pre-post conference meeting. That's going to be Will and I. Schedule Zoom training. That's going to be your training committee, correct?
Correct. So I would say that 7 and then 12 would probably be training / staff. And probably 7 would be staff and chair, because obviously creating all of that would be all of us working together again. Launching the application, that would be selection, chair staff, or selection staff probably.
That's still staff chair probably. Because what communicating with other committees that have volunteer opportunities for scheduling purposes, that really goes back to talking to other committees to see where is your need. What is it that you need to do? How is it that we can assist? So like for professional development, we know that the tentative plan at this point is that the schedule for concurrent session hosts goes out to the board. And then after it goes out to the board, it would go to the ambassadors. And then the ambassadors have the opportunity to sign up for those spots. And then if there's any remaining, that will go out to the membership. So part of what we'll talk about with, like when we break into the subcommittees, I guess, would be, what are the requirements going to be for an ambassador? Do they, there are going to be some expectations that they're going to serve. And so do they need to do one volunteer thing a day of annual session? Or do they need to do, one concurrent host and one? So that's some things we still have to flesh out. We need to figure out what the need is and how we're going to best address that. So there's definitely things, we have kind of the 30,000 foot view of how this is going to play out. And so really getting down at the lower level as we go throughout the next 9 months, basically, to get all this figured out, and knowing that we're new and knowing that we have some grace for that. So, okay, so we are on 14, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So Kate, do you want to be involved in the volunteer opportunities? Do you want to be involved in that discussion?
Sure.
Okay. Applications due. So we had the applications, what would have been this year, were due like 3 months ahead of time, because we had a training set up in October. And so, which would have been 1 month ahead of the annual session. And so that will be part of, those expectations if you're an ambassador, that you will attend this training that is set up by the training committee. And so if we are thinking, you can help me with my math, if the conference is in September and we need to have the training in August, is June early enough, I guess, for
So I
having
think
applications due?
our thought process was that applications would go out when early bird registration opens, and early bird registration is usually going to go out May, June, and then end by early July for a September conference. So
do we want
we can leave that as June. I feel like if we make it May, I mean, you can make it May, you can make it June, or you can just put May/June and we'll play with dates and see where we need to put it. Because if you're not launching until early bird registration, we never really know when that timeline looks like.
Okay. And part of it, I think, is again trying to figure out people's ability to travel. You know, like because just because registration opens doesn't mean Stacy's going to say, yes, I want to do this and sign me up on the first day registration opens. Because so sometimes we may need to have the
Could you
turnaround
just-
time may be shorter than what we want ideally. Go ahead, Sarah.
So for 13 where it says launch application, you don't have a month. You just say when early bird registration opens. So for then 16, could you instead write so many weeks after early bird registration opens if you want to link it to that?
Or could you just say by early bird close date?
There you go. Yeah.
But I don't know if that'll be by July. You know, and that's where I was trying to think backwards, you know. And so if you go to 20, no. So conference will end on September 15th. So I was trying to go backwards. So backwards a month would be the training would be in August. And so to let them know that they need to be at this meeting, we need to give them a little bit of notice. So that put us in July, which then puts applications to that May, June. I may have to crunch our time a little bit depending on. I just don't want it to be like a super short window and people aren't able to commit yet. So
Yeah.
we can play with it. It's not set in stone. It's just our guideline. It's like a budget.
Yeah.
It's like a budget. It's our best guess. So we're gonna have
is based on confirmation that they will be present, and so that's part of applying and knowing that you will be attending. Like you can't consider applying if you're not confident that you're going to be there.
Mhm. So
Another thought though that I just had, which was kind of my thought in preparing for this year, was so oftentimes when you register, you have to have your hotel confirmation number, and ambassadors would need to know if they need to be there early or late. So how do we coordinate all of that?
that's a good question. And we've talked about when our thought tentatively, and help me remember, Kate, would be that ambassadors would meet like late in the day on this day, the day before pre-conference.
Right.
So that way people who were coming in, most of us are going to be, well, a lot of people tend to come in the night before to be ready for the first day. So it wouldn't be like they're going to have to come in 2 days before because we're doing the training ahead of time. But it would be, you know, getting pamphlets passed out and their assignments passed out and doing those things that evening before.
Yeah, like our conversation was, if we were able to meet the night before, it wouldn't be like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It would be more like 7 or 8 in the evening.
Okay.
Maybe
I think having
or like an evening hors d'oeuvre, you know, meet and greet, pass out all your goodies and assignments, and
I think
Just for
having
sure.
that information in the recruitment materials would be
Mhm.
important.
and it wouldn't be an absolute requirement that if someone wasn't able to get in until that morning, that afterwards, it's not a do or die. But it would be great to have everybody there the night before, just to A, know that they're there, and B, see people and, you know, touch base. But
Okay. And these are the things, you know, the things that you guys are talking about. We've been trying to flesh out, like we have the big picture. So let's break it down and see how we can really get this implemented. when we had arrangements, Kate, were you ever involved with the arrangements?
No, I never was.
And Stacy, how long did you say that you've been with Extension?
I've been with Extension 5 years.
5 years. Okay. So, and actually and Sarah, were you about the same? 5 also? Yeah. So the arrangements has actually probably been gone. The last year of the arrangements committee was when we were in Omaha. So that has probably been about that long. So,
I was in
yeah.
Omaha. That was one of my first years.
Yeah. Okay. And that literally was like the last year because I was chair of that committee, and they're like, and we're done. I'm like, oh, okay. We've left that a lot. All right. So back to our kind of plan of work here. I'll leave applications due May, June, selection. So this is going to be selection. So our symbol, does that go back to marketing? Is that going to be the whole committee, or how are we thinking that's going to work?
I think that needs to be, this is me thinking out loud. I think that needs to be staff, obviously working with Will, but also a whole committee, because this is where I had brought up, it needs to be something identifiable, but also we keep saying scarf, and this is just bringing that thought forward, that what if we, being gender neutral, exactly, Stacey, I've
Right.
thought that multiple times. What if we get somebody that A, doesn't like scarves, or B is, we keep thinking female, but we're not, it's not, we're gonna have two men on the board in a week. And, do we say, we say not a vest, because most people want to wear a vest, but what, do we have different options? Do we have, what do we do? So
Yeah.
I think that just needs to be brought forward as options.
And we had
And
talked about even doing just a ribbon on the name tag, but that it's not easily seen. And so that would, it needs to be something else that can be, is a pin big enough? Is a pin with a,
I was thinking
on it.
That's kind of what I was thinking, a pin or a blue blazer or something that, something colorful.
We don't have that in the budget.
I know, but that would be like the most recognized. Look for the, the gold blazer, like I think of, that's what I recognize most when I think of when I go someplace, but yeah, that would be expensive, but a pin or something like that.
Wow. So you just totally took me back to my, my high school days as a state, advisor not advisor, but a state officer in, FHA, Future Filmmakers of America. My red blazer, my red polyester blazer.
Well, can we get like a quarter zip or, some, just a shirt or something?
We don't have that in the budget either.
Yeah.
Stacey, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say even like a special lanyard or something. Just something recognizable that kind of draws their eye to you. If a shirt or a blazer isn't, in the budget.
And that might be the most feasible option. And we had talked, we've talked different times about, is it something, so we could spend a little bit more potentially if we had something that we were going to use every year, right? So like a little higher quality item, if I was going to give it to Kate and Kate had to give it back to me, or that sort of thing. Or is it more, I don't know, more of an incentive, I don't know that that's the right word, to do something that is like conference specific. So like a lanyard with like the Great Lakes thing, you know, symbol on it or something like that. And then you would get to keep it. I don't know if that is something that is, you know, an incentive or not, but there's, I think it was the ag conference maybe that, and I'll look at my office mate as he's coming back up, that have like vests that you just put on. Do they have vests, Kev? But, you know, again, the issue with that is not everyone wants to run around in a vest at annual session, you know, it may not go with their outfit. So trying to figure out what the lanyard might be a really good option though, if it was a way to make it really, like really stand out from because the thought with the scarf had been that you could see like if they had it on their shoulder, pinned to their shoulder or even tied to their lanyard, you could see it from the front or the back. So that if you needed assistance, you knew who to look for. And so this is the kind of discussions we need. Like, what is it that might be a good viable option? I'm going to tell Will we just have to get a hat. Just have to have a little beret or something. So yeah, so that's something we need to think about. So for that, we'll just put a whole committee because I think that's going to be a big discussion. But that lanyard, that might be a good, it's not like we had thought, like if we could do like a scarf with like the year's emblem on it or logo, that might be a nice kind of thing, but we have to look at the logistics too. So that'll be an all committee discussion. And probably one we'll have at the very beginning so that we can get it nailed down and get those things figured out. All right, so the Zoom training. And I think with this, I think that, you know, it's the responsible party who we list, but I think we will all be involved. Like I fully expect to be on the ambassador training, although it's the training committee. So, and I don't know, do you think Will need to be on that? Would staff be involved in that
Probably.
for support? And certificates and collect, possibly. We'll leave collect because we don't know what we're going to do. And then clear committee list. So is there anything that because we definitely could have, anything just thinking about this process, about what we have left off? Like I know not every single decision we're ever going to make is going to be on this list. Is there any big things that we have left off? And I will say to Stacy and Sarah, I really appreciate you guys showing up today. I don't know if you expected to take such a lead on the committee, but I am glad you're here. The conference, let me look. So I have next year's conference as back to a Monday. So the 12th through the 15th. So a Monday through Thursday, which would put our, if I have this right, our committee gathering, if you would be on Sunday night. Is that correct, Kate? The other thing that could give us some flexibility is we don't necessarily need to hold the training. I don't think a full month before. And so that gives us a little bit of leeway for when our applications maybe need to be due and when that selection needs to be completed. But what we had tried to do this year in our planning was we set that training date so that when they applied, they knew what the date was. So that way they could hold that date regardless. If they were selected, they had it, and if they weren't selected, they could free it up off the calendar. So that will be something that we will want to probably set that date. I don't know, is that further up on the? Yeah, we just have scheduled Zoom training. We just have prior to launch, application launch. So that way they know. That way they can say, okay, we need to hold this date. I think it was October 13th this year.
Here's a thought. So back to the idea of a lanyard. So I'm Googling while we're talking. This obviously is less expensive, but I'm gonna.
You want me to
So
stop share?
Can I do a share? Yeah, if I can. Let's see if I can do a share. Here we go. You can get lanyards that actually say things on them. So if we could do a lanyard that said, NEAFCS ambassador written on the lanyard, and then have, a card on it that had whatever we put on the card, whether that would be the conference logo and their name or something, that could be something that they could keep then.
Mhm.
That would be something that, get a whole bunch of the lanyards pre-printed with, just generic NEAFCS ambassador in the NEAFCS blue. And then if the national office has the option, because they've been doing such a nice job the past couple of years when we've had conference with printing out the meal tickets, real nice on cardstock, doing maybe the name badge with the conference logo and their name, something like that to hang on so maybe that's something that we could do, something like that.
And so those we would have to get back then at the end, the lanyard itself.
Potentially.
Right.
Because they would be able to use it. Yeah. Unless we change the colors every year. Because this would be like it would depend. If we did them custom and we did a lot of them, then yes. We would just get them back every year.
They're only serving 1 year. You could
They only
put
served 1 year.
AFCS ambassador and then the year
If you put the year on it, it would.
and change the color.
Mm-hmm. So if the colors went with like the color of the conference, looks like the colors, we just approved the logo for next year, and it appears to have like a lot of peachy tones in it. And so if they appear to have more of a color scheme, and we go away from the NEAFCS blue, we go with some colors that are in their conference logo colors. You could do that. You could.
And I wonder if there's a limit, if you have NEAFCS ambassador 2022, that may only go around a lanyard once or twice, so I wonder if there's a text limit with that.
We'd have to see what options are for custom imprints, but it would be an option to do something like that. Now, granted, that would also mean they'd have to wear 2 lanyards. They'd have to wear their regular NEAFCS name badge.
And I would just combine it all into one.
Yeah.
like just the lanyard and give them the name badge and they,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know anybody who wants to wear 2 of those things,
I wouldn't either. I hate
you
women.
know? And they can put on their name tag, perhaps it could say ambassador, great big.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
But that could be an option. Because
yeah.
I mean that
'Cause we would-
stands out pretty good.
Mhm.
So I mean they're so that's an
Yeah, because
option.
we, for sure.
Okay.
So with the plan of work, in which, you know, like I said, it's like a budget, it's just it's our guide. We want to follow it as closely as we can. But we have to, you know, I'll get this submitted this week, so that we can get our A+ for our committee. And then we really probably need to meet again as a committee, just to get some of these, like the job description, review that, and have the application, which we've talked about, and we have some pieces that like we can share. It's just kind of a working document that we've been going from. And ultimately, you know, we have 17 people who signed up, but if those 17 people really, you know, if 10 of them really just wanted to be ambassadors and they don't want to be on the program committee, we need to try to figure out those things too. So it may be we have a pretty small committee and we're going to just work together a lot. So it may end up being that we don't end up having subcommittees. We just have one committee and we're doing all the things and we have leads. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I would like to try to meet again in maybe early December. And so I'll send out a doodle poll to get some options for that, if that sounds good. And then we can maybe even start looking at a few of these things ahead of time. None of us want to work over the holidays, so we will not. So early December, and then we'll break and we'll come back after the holidays. I, for one, will be taking some vacation time. Hopefully you guys will as well. Thoughts, comments, questions? I don't want to hold this here until, well, noon my time. Maybe 1 where you are, if we don't have things that we can get accomplished. So anything else kind of for the good of the cause that we need to handle right now? If not, I'll give you 50 minutes back and then I will follow up. Anything that you're like, that was crazy talk, we need to do something different, or you're like, what did I get myself into? We're happy to have you. Happy to have you. Okay. All right. With that, I will say we're good. I'll work on getting this submitted. I'll take this next 50 minutes to do that. So we can get our committee done. And if there's another committee you want to jump in on to see what they're doing, you have a little bit of time to catch the end of theirs. And I thank you for coming today.
All right. Thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you,
And we'll
Jessica.
send that out.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks.